you know, I can go through a litany. In fact, if you want to take a tour sometime, I'll take you through the town and show you some of the things that I've been able to do as far as direct line items in the budget are concerned over the years.
Well, let me get us refocused. You touched on the cemetery land, and
Right.
I do want to acknowledge your efforts in filing for that legislation. I know our board does appreciate that. And if we are able to kind of wind the clock back and bring those numbers down that you just referenced, that would be a huge benefit for the town. But coupled with that is also the need, we have some needs on Livingston Street, not just the cemetery, but over on Livingston Street where the recreation area is. I know legislation was passed a year and a half ago, and it seems like we've gotten bogged down through the bureaucratic process. The last I recall...
It makes it through the legislature.
Yes, not the legislature,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
It's all about DCAM, really, quite
Horrible,
frankly.
horrible agency.
And I think if my recollection is correct,
It is.
we're waiting for some guidance from them on maintaining the cemetery that is the state hospital cemetery. And literally, we've agreed to maintain it,
Right.
but they have to give us the quote standards. And I don't believe we've ever had that communication, Mr. Montori, since we met with them. Yeah. So that's an area, quite frankly, Representative Maselli, you could be of significant assistance to us just to get this over the finish line.
Yeah, like I
There's a
told you,
few little things
if
to
I had been
tie.
at that meeting, but I don't want to look at the past, I would have brought some of those things up.
Yeah.
Because DCAM, when I say horrible agency, let me give you a quick bird's eye view of how that came about. There were all kinds of games being played at one time. Towns where people were putting bills through to transfer property, and then it would eventually find its way into the hands of, and it's not a bad word, a developer, and all kinds of games were being played. One of the big problems arose at UMass when they were doing the library. When they were doing the library, there was no real oversight. And I happened to be in the legislature when the reforms were going through in '77. There was no oversight. And 2 senators went to jail. Not many people remember that. They took a payoff of approximately $40,000. And it was equal, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. And I know you'll be glad to hear that. I was going to say that.
Bipartisanship.
At that time, there was a reform movement pressed, and 2 people were involved to lead it. And one was Andy Card, who later became chief of staff for the president, and Phil Johnston, who became head of the state Democratic committee. And I got involved. I was a brand new legislator. Sometimes you do something and everything looks good, and then you look back and you say, what did I do? At that time, there was a fellow named Ward, tremendous integrity, well-respected, Harvard background, and he said, you gotta put some language in there. You're gonna put some language in there that says this, it's simple. When you transfer property, out comes an appraiser. He puts a value on that property, and that's what you sell it at. And I'll wind this up quickly. That's what you sell it at. Well, sounds good, but DCAM keeps hanging their hat on that. But they move it around as they see fit. I just had one last year in Tewksbury that was like yours, and I'm using that for my argument. They wanted to charge this gentleman the new appraised value on the property. In fact, he wasn't too far from the senior center. Found out he was on state property. And we argued at that time, and I'm positive they gave it to him at the old valuation. So there is a precedent that's already been established. So to answer your question, that's what brought about that language, that's what brought about that agency, and they've become more of a hindrance. At one time they had a chairman named Perini, famous family, the Boston Braves, was great. He'd cut through all the red tape and would move it through. In fact, you could pick up the phone and solve your problem that you've got right now. But the proof that they've got in there, they're stale, they've been there a long time, and they want to keep saying no. But we're gonna overcome that.
Your,
I knew
your
that
help
too.
with that would be much appreciated, because we've got this to the 1 yard line, right?
Right.
We don't wanna have that
Nope.
interception. We don't wanna get it into the end zone, right?
No buttons,
So,
yeah.
any help you can give us on that is appreciated. The next item that we wanted to talk to you about really is the whole context of potential mitigation as it relates to services provided to the state hospital. And I know you mentioned a few minutes ago, they're a huge employer, they're a valuable partner in the community, so we take that view as well. I know I've been involved with some discussions, as has our
Right.
public safety chiefs, the town manager, and others, and from my vantage point, we've made some steps in the right direction, but we need to advance that issue a little further. I don't know if you care to offer any
Sure.
comments about that as well, but
We had
important
that
to
meeting
us.
at your request,
Right,
met with Debbie Tosti, the
Yep.
executive, in fact, I'm speaking to her today, the executive at the hospital, who, by the way, I don't want to be political, but she does a great job there. And her feeling about that was, you know, we've been good neighbors, the property and what have you, but she said they do that with all operations that the Commonwealth has, the jails and what have you. It's all done the same way. Well, I said, you know, at one time, you know, I might agree with you, but maybe we can work something out. That's on my agenda, and I'm very sincere about that. I think you've convinced me that we should do something. In fact, you sent us today the number of runs, and I'm trying to put something together to show where we've got to do something relative to mitigation. And it's something that you'll be involved in, and when I say you, any member of you or your board and the manager be involved in, and we'll try to work something out. But it's gonna have to go higher than Debbie.
Sure.
It's gonna have to go
Yep.
to the administration, and, but by that I mean, we have an old friend back, Mary Lou Sutter, and we've had mixed reviews with her when she was the secretary in the past. But he brought her back, and she's now Secretary of Human Services, which oversees the hospital. And I can assure you, we will have a meeting with her, because I think on a local level, Debbie would be reluctant to try and put something together
Yeah.
that's too parochial.
That's
So the
understandable.
bottom line is, that can be, I think that can be done.
So-
You've convinced me that something should be done, because I looked at the number of runs. My God,
Well,
It's incredible.
and I know, not to belabor the point, but I know it made an impact on her, and I think you as well, that there was a time here in town when we were forced to close a fire station temporarily. And what that meant was every time an engine went up to the state hospital to make a run up there, the rest of the community was somewhat exposed from a public safety perspective.
Right.
So that really is what drives the issue. It's about our ability to, you know, maximize the coverage and the public safety, the provision of public safety to the community, which includes the state hospital. But
right,
because of the volume, it just seems to make sense. So nothing's going to get resolved on this tonight, but I know, and I took away, and I think I expressed it to the vice chair, Mr. Wilson, as well, that I thought we made a lot of headway in a positive fashion
right.
in that discussion. And what we'd like to do is certainly make sure we keep the ball rolling in that direction.
Yeah,
So,
you had everybody, I hate the term, but you had everybody at the same table.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
even after that meeting,
yeah.
she's reluctant, but she sees some maybe fairness in the thing. But, you know, and I said to her at that time, I didn't realize that the governor was gonna move so fast. And I thought we'd be dealing with the same secretary, but we're not. Maybe that's the way to approach it. And I'll involve everybody into that. I wanna be emphatic before this ends, and I don't wanna end it. I'm good for an hour. I was gonna say that Representative Lyons and I, not to be redundant, are working on that cemetery thing with the administration. We're in the process of setting that up, and we'd much rather handle it administratively than legislatively. So,
Terrific. So we thank you for that. I want to move to our next item, and that involves something that's a significant issue for us here. We put, as you know, literally $100 million into our sewer system. We've spent additional significant sums in our water infrastructure. And it's an area that we've really wrestled with over the last few years to get our costs under control from a rating perspective. But it's an area that we really could use some creative thinking, if you will. I don't know if there's any thoughts you have for us in that area.
I hate to keep talking about this administration, but I've got a lot of friends who've been appointed in responsible positions. One of them is Jay Ash. I think you know
Sure.
Jay Ash, and there's some money in that account. There's money in that account, and there are a couple of things that might have to be done. And I'm not saying we can access that, but they have the authority to do something. And what we're working on with them, the information we told them we'd get them, is the income level in this community of the people who are hooked in a sewer. What that means, I don't know, but I told them we would. And, but we're in the process of setting up a meeting with Jay Ash. And we're looking into it, no guarantees, no promises, but if there's a way to do something and access some money, we want to do it.
I think the state fund
Is piddling.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess a message from my colleagues and I to you as a legislator would be if that fund can be looked at, potentially expanded, certainly we'd be supportive of that with some guidelines as to how towns access it.
And you know what we've done with the MWRA towns.
Yeah.
We got a special deal going for them. And it's the same thing, it's, it's not special, but it's not a lot of money, but gee, at least it's something.
Yeah.
But the one that you're tied into, which is probably the same
Yeah.
general account, is got nothing. And the fellow who professes to be the expert, somebody from my office was doing some research and came across a person who told him he was gonna help. I said, I've had 8 people working for me. 8 people have spoken to this guy. Forget it. And, oh, by the way, can I introduce, I've got a new employee I hired.
Then we get one
He's
more.
from Tewksbury,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
and that's Mr. Stanley back here, Andy Stanley,
Welcome.
St.
Welcome
John's
aboard.
and Suffolk.
Okay.
And he lives on Pringle Road, so he's in town
All
here.
right. So we're gonna be
So
chasing him.
I try to deal locally.
All right. So Representative, just 2 quick items that we want to touch on remain. One is the state of our public library. I think we talked about this last year.
Right,
And just by way of furthering that discussion, the waiver or the certification process for the public library system is in shambles, quite frankly,
Right.
from where I think we sit.
yeah,
And what really brings it to light again is in the town manager's proposed budget for fiscal 16, we're making more effort to improve the staffing levels at the library. I forget, is it $50,000 or $60,000 in staffing that we're adding to the library? Which again reinforces the commitment of the town to improve the library
Right.
services. None of that counts towards the maintenance of effort.
No.
And it seems somewhat ridiculous in that we're on warning status, if you will, and other towns in the region have rejected building new libraries, and they get aid from the state because they've maintained their books and subscription levels to a
which
certain
makes
level.
no sense.
It's converse to logic, and we need to speak to that.
Being emphatic, we've called them 3 times. We want to set a meeting up with them, set up to meet with them, because we've been over this before, even when Dave Cressman was the manager. Been over this before, makes no sense. And that's always the argument that we use. Take a look at this library. There's nothing like it around, and yet we're not accruing any benefit to their guidelines because of it, and we should. And we will be meeting with
We
them.
need some change.
Do you want to sit in on that meeting?
I would be happy. I'm sure
Okay,
some of my
fine.
colleagues would be willing to do
Good.
that as well. And we'd welcome that opportunity. The recent snow obviously has had a huge impact on the state for obviously the municipalities as well. I don't know the state of our snow and ice budget, but
Well,
we know there's not much left.
they can't look bad.
So, I know the governor's taken some steps in the last few days, but anything that you can do to address state level assistance because of the, sort of unprecedented situation here would be
When I
appreciated.
was in there the other day, obviously, every town has, and there's a big movement, I think a substantial movement afoot in the legislature right now, in conjunction with the governor, they're working with him to do something, and maybe do something substantial, because this is, let me tell you, I've been around a few years, and I don't care what they say about 74. This, as far as I'm concerned, the impact of this surpasses that.
It's huge.
And in that 74 storm, I spent overnight at the State House at that time. And my job at that time was, they said no one could travel the highways of Massachusetts. And if businesses had an emergency, they were to contact the Secretary of State's office. Well, obviously, they couldn't get anyone at the Secretary of State's office, so they called their representative. And I had someone typing up letters, giving them permission to put a gold seal on it, and they came into Boston to pick it up. So bottom line is, I remember what that was like. And this, honest to God, this constant barrage, it just makes you punch drunk. But the only nice thing about it is, there's no traffic in Boston right now. And there's no I'm hoping tomorrow morning there won't be any traffic. But,
I'll be in there in the morning.
and you can bet, as
I'll
sure
let
as
you
the
know.
sun comes up, that we're gonna have a new MBTA general manager too. So, I'm ready, willing, and able, anything you want to discuss. I look forward to it. The only thing I'm disappointed in is that we've had no movement on the money, on the local aid or anything of that nature. Those folks who are coming along later, like my good friend from Andover, when he comes along by March, there should be, you should have a good idea of what that's gonna be like.
Well, as I said to you, we welcome the communication, so if circumstances change and there's something you want to talk to us about,
Good,
we'll make that a reality.
I'll take advantage of
Otherwise,
that if you don't
We
mind.
do appreciate
good.
the effort. I want to give my colleagues, Mr. Penelitis has a comment.
And maybe the town manager can correct me, I believe that Chief Sheehan was talking about a potential cut to
Yes,
a 911 grant,
yeah.
maybe as part of those cuts. And I know he expressed concern that was gonna be a significant budget hit
Yeah,
for us specifically.
that's a good point.
Great
'cause I
catch,
didn't-
thank you.
Let me tell you, I looked through it, but that wasn't one of the things I was looking for. In fact, I've got it here. That wasn't one of them I'm looking for. That's right, we're gonna be part of that, so I better take a look.
It needed to be refunded, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think it
it's
was
not-
part of the 9C cuts as much as it was just a cut.
Okay.
They were eliminating the grant program.
That's a
Right, about the grant program?
$60,000 hit to Tewksbury.
Jesus.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
So,
And we were gonna be the host community, right?
No,
It was, it dealt with the regional 911, but it was also the annual grant funding that we get for our
Okay.
current dispatch.
Okay.
And it's not this administration that.
Was it prior?
It was prior.
Yeah.
So we're asking this administration to
correct
Okay.
the wrongs.
I'll join forces tomorrow. I will.
We appreciate
Good.
that.
I appreciate you bringing it up.
Mr. Wilson,
I
any
just-
comments?
No, I just want to thank you for the work. I know that you've been working on some of the creative solutions to some of these issues that
Thank
we
you.
discussed tonight, and I appreciate the efforts. I know it's not easy sledding, so to speak.
Oh, man.
But no, I do appreciate the efforts, and anything you can do to help us is obviously
Thank you.
much appreciated.
Super. Any last comment?
Yeah, just want to piggyback on what Scott said. I know that you've done quite a bit for the both communities, Tewksbury and Walton, for many years, and anything you can do to improve what we need as far as, especially with Route 38 and some of the sewer. The other biggest complaint I hear is the sewer and water rate, so anything you can do in those areas would certainly be greatly appreciated by the community.
We will work hard on it.
Yeah, I know, appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Brett, for being here. Really appreciate your time and the information you provided. I look at the list and we're saying, can you help us with this? Can you help us with this? Can you help us with this? And there's dollars associated with all of those.
That's
I know
right.
As a community, Tewksbury provides more to the state than we get back, and in local aid and,
But you know, you and I debated this before.
And we're not gonna
Almost
tonight.
almost every community can say that. And Wilmington says it all the time,
Oh, yeah.
because of the industry that they've got there.
yeah.
And, but the bottom line is, I don't know how I can convince you. When I talk to developers, entrepreneurs, I don't want to be overly dramatic, I keep coming back to that one company, Lilliputian, in Wilmington, which is part of a big operation. I assume they're still in business. A few years ago, they were kind of unhappy in Wilmington, and I steered them up here. And it was a company that was gonna grow. In fact, the governor and a couple of the other folks made a tour of the plant too. And anything I can do to help locally, I do. Maybe I've got a vested interest. I've got 2 grandkids, my daughter and my son-in-law live here. And great town, it is. And so the bottom line is, I really appreciate this tonight. And please believe me when I tell you, I'm in there working on behalf of this town. And I don't take my hat off to any other legislator. I had people in that building today, you could fire a cannon in that building and not hit anyone. And as I said, we're in it. And I had them researching a lot of the things we talked about tonight. And we will get a meeting again with the administration, and especially on the mitigation situation. You've convinced me we have to do something.
Well, we appreciate it, and I know for the public's benefit, we meet perhaps here in this forum once or twice a year, but I know each of my colleagues can attest to this, that there's open and ongoing communication, you know, in between those meetings. So we appreciate that, the good work, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much.
Good to see all of you, and I applaud you for the work you do.
Well, we'll keep trying. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move to our next agenda item, which is a wine and malt license hearing. I'm gonna read the hearing notice, and then the proponents or representatives of this particular organization can come forward and sit where Representative Maselli is now sitting.
That's my hint to get out of
We'll
here.
go from there. Try to be nice. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 10, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. at 464 Main Street, the temporary town hall, on the application of Pranom Sard Thai Corporation, doing business as Origin Thai Bistro, by Cesar Agundez, manager, for permission to sell wine and malt alcoholic beverages as common victualler on premises located at 1699 Shawshene Street, Unit Number 2 in Tewksbury, and described as a 1,200 square foot location with one front entrance and exit. Input is welcome from the public. The Board of Selectmen recommends that comments be submitted in writing to the board at this location on or before noontime on Friday, February 6, 2015. So let me